One anonymous member sent out an update about the billions of mosquitoes that were released into the wild. In a recent development, the Environmental Protection Agency has granted approval to Oxitec, a biotech company based in the United Kingdom, to release approximately 2.4 billion genetically modified mosquitoes over the course of the next 4 years, until 2024. This expansion allows Oxitec to extend its ongoing trial in Florida and initiate a new pilot project in California's Central Valley, an area witnessing a noticeable increase in mosquito populations. The anonymous member explained that Oxitec's engineered mosquitoes are exclusively male individuals, ensuring that they do not bite humans. However, they warned that the use of genetically modified organisms has been a subject of significant debate and research in recent years, and one of the most notable applications is the release of genetically modified mosquitoes into ecosystems to combat the spread of diseases such as malaria and dengue fever. It raises concerns about the potential side effects and unintended consequences on the environment and the delicate balance of ecosystems. One of the foremost concerns regarding the release of genetically modified mosquitoes is the potential disruption of ecological balance within the targeted ecosystem. Mosquitoes play a role in food webs as a food source for various predators, including birds, bats, and other insects. Introducing genetically modified mosquitoes with altered characteristics may disrupt the natural predator-prey relationships, leading to unintended consequences for local wildlife. For instance, if genetically modified mosquitoes are engineered to have reduced reproductive capabilities, it could lead to a decrease in the mosquito population, and while this might be the intended outcome, it could also affect the populations of animals that rely on mosquitoes as a primary food source. The resulting imbalances could have cascading effects throughout the ecosystem. Releasing genetically modified mosquitoes into an ecosystem can lead to the evolution of resistance among the target mosquito populations. When genetically modified mosquitoes are introduced, it is possible that a subset of the population may have genetic variations that enable them to survive and reproduce, despite the genetic modifications designed to control their numbers. Over time, these resistant mosquitoes could become dominant, rendering the genetic modification less effective and potentially making the mosquito population even more challenging to control. The evolution of resistance is a common concern in pest management strategies and highlights the importance of long-term monitoring and adaptability in genetically modified mosquito programs. Genetically modified mosquito releases may affect not only the targeted mosquito species, but also non-target species within the ecosystem. For instance, if genetically modified mosquitoes are engineered to carry a lethal gene, there is a risk that the gene could transfer to non-target species through hybridization. This could lead to unintended harm to species that are not pests and may even threaten local biodiversity. Additionally, the release of genetically modified mosquitoes may inadvertently harm beneficial insects, such as pollinators like bees and butterflies, which share habitats with mosquitoes. The potential collateral damage to non-target species raises ethical and ecological concerns, as these unintended consequences could have far-reaching implications for ecosystem health and stability. Another significant concern is the potential for the modified genes in genetically modified mosquitoes to spread beyond the targeted population. Genetic material can be transmitted through interbreeding with non-genetically modified mosquitoes, potentially leading to the unintended spread of the modified genes throughout the ecosystem. The uncontrolled spread of genetically modified genes can have unpredictable consequences, particularly if the modified genes provide an advantage that allows the genetically modified mosquitoes to outcompete native mosquito populations or other species within the ecosystem. It is crucial to develop stringent containment strategies to minimize the risk of genetic spread. While the primary goal of releasing genetically modified mosquitoes is to reduce disease transmission, there is a possibility that altering the mosquito population could have unintended consequences for disease dynamics within the ecosystem. Changes in the mosquito population may affect the transmission dynamics of diseases beyond the targeted ones. For instance, reducing the population of disease-carrying mosquitoes could indirectly lead to an increase in the prevalence of other diseases that rely on mosquitoes as vectors. This phenomenon underscores the need for comprehensive research and modeling to understand the potential impacts on disease dynamics and to mitigate unintended consequences. Although it sounds like something from a movie, scientists have just revealed that they plan on using mosquitoes like flying syringes and said they will start administering crucial malaria vaccines. According to a recent report, individuals participating in a clinical trial recently had their arms enclosed in mesh containers containing 200 mosquitoes. The outcome of this experiment was quite surprising, as one participant experienced the formation of red, elevated blisters on their entire forearm, resembling chemical burns. Photos may possess the power to convey a myriad of meanings, and while photographs are certainly intriguing, the research conducted on this latest technique holds equal significance. Recently, a group of scientists from the Seattle Children's Research Institute, the National Institutes of Health, and other establishments shared their discoveries in the August publication, Science Translational Medicine, shedding light on the underlying approach behind the phenomenon. The researchers genetically modified the mosquitoes by introducing the Plasmodium falciparum parasites. Unlike previous attempts at creating malaria immunization using parasites, this is the first time this technology has been employed to modify the parasites in a way that allows them to carry malaria without causing illness in humans. According to University of Washington, Seattle researcher Sean Murphy, mosquitoes are like 1,000 tiny flying syringes that they will utilize in their research. Throughout the research, out of the total 26 participants, 14 individuals were exposed to malaria, and approximately half of them acquired the disease. This implies that the current effectiveness of the method stands at approximately 50%, indicating potential for enhancement. Contrary to expectations, researchers explained that the objective is not to release a large number of mosquitoes that protect against malaria instead of transmitting it. This proposition is certainly fascinating, but it would give rise to significant concerns regarding bioethics and medical consent. Rather than stating it outright, they have mentioned that they are simply investigating a potentially economical approach for creating and distributing immunization. A United States company has announced that it plans to release 2.4 billion genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild. The insects, which have been developed by biotech company Oxitec, will be male individuals that do not bite and are genetically modified to only produce male offspring that are capable of reproducing, as stated by the company. The Environmental Protection Agency has given approval for the release of 2.4 billion genetically modified mosquitoes in California and Florida. These mosquitoes, developed by biotech company Oxitec, are non-biting male mosquitoes that have been genetically engineered to ensure that their offspring are only male and capable of reproducing. Oxitec claims that this approach will help decrease the population of the invasive Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, which are known carriers of diseases such as Zika and yellow fever. Female mosquitoes will perish, whereas males will procreate and transmit the self-restricting gene to the succeeding generation, ultimately resulting in a decrease in population. Although these diseases are not currently being transmitted in California, the invasive insect has been identified as an escalating threat as their population expands throughout the state. Oxitec CEO Gray Franson states that due to the increasing health risk posed by this mosquito in the United States, they are actively striving to make this technology widely accessible. As part of this effort, they are conducting pilot programs to showcase the effectiveness of the technology in various climate conditions. These programs are crucial in achieving their goal of making the technology available to address the growing health threat. According to Oxitec, the mosquitoes will be equipped with a genetic marker, making it simple for scientists to distinguish them from other mosquitoes in the wild. The company states that the current experiment is an expansion of a previous pilot project approved by the EPA in 2020. Oxitec released 144,000 genetically modified mosquitoes in the Florida Keys during 2021 and also conducted a release in Brazil. They assert that after 13 weeks, this technology was successful in suppressing 95% of the Aedes aegypti population. Mustafa Daboon, an expert in medical and veterinary entomology and the general manager of the Delta Mosquito and Vector Control District, said that it's a clever solution, noting that rather than relying on human intervention to apply pesticides and eliminate these mosquitoes, they are harnessing male mosquitoes to carry out the task on our behalf. It's a battle between nature and nature itself. However, skeptics remain unconvinced about the absolute safety of the mosquitoes. According to Dana Pearls, the program manager for food and technology at Friends of the Earth, there isn't a concept of absolute effectiveness in science. Pearls questions the public's trust in Oxitec's experiment, expressing concern about whether it can guarantee the eradication of genetically engineered female mosquitoes. The question is, how can we be certain of its success? The opponents expressed their concern regarding the female mosquito's exposure to tetracycline, an antibiotic commonly utilized in agriculture. The use of this antibiotic may enable the survival of female mosquitoes. Supporters argue that mosquitoes typically do not venture beyond a 500-foot radius from their place of origin. According to regulations imposed by the EPA, the release of these mosquitoes is prohibited within a 500-meter distance from wastewater treatment facilities, areas where commercial citrus, apple, pear, nectarine, and peach are grown, as well as commercial livestock producers of cattle, poultry, and pigs. As of right now, there's many who are against this, and they've said that we don't know if there will be any side effects. Those against these genetically engineered mosquitoes have said that this is new territory. Nonetheless, skeptics argue that additional testing should be conducted within regulated settings. According to Dr. Robert Gould, the president of San Francisco Bay Physicians for Social Responsibility, genetically modified mosquitoes, once introduced to the environment, cannot be retrieved. Instead of proceeding with an unsupervised and unrestricted genetic experiment, he emphasizes the importance of taking precautionary measures, ensuring transparency in data, and conducting appropriate risk assessments. Mosquitoes are carriers, or vectors, for several disease-causing viruses and parasites. They acquire these pathogens by feeding on an infected host and later transmit them to other individuals during subsequent feedings. Because of this cycle, mosquitoes serve as a bridge for pathogens to move between hosts, effectively spreading disease across populations. Perhaps the most well-known mosquito-borne disease is malaria. In addition to malaria, mosquitoes are responsible for spreading numerous other diseases. Moreover, the threat mosquitoes pose is magnified by their adaptability and widespread distribution. Over 3,000 mosquito species exist worldwide, inhabiting every continent except Antarctica. Their ability to reproduce quickly and thrive in a variety of habitats allows for rapid disease transmission across diverse geographic areas. Different climates further exacerbates the threat of mosquitoes by creating more suitable environments for their proliferation. Increased rainfall provides more breeding sites for mosquitoes, leading to higher population densities and increasing the risk of disease transmission. Efforts to control the mosquito population, and thus curb disease transmission, are continuously ongoing. Genetic engineering has brought about a new epoch in biological sciences, with genetically modified organisms becoming more prevalent. While the genetic modification of animals promises various benefits, such as improved disease resistance or productivity, it also poses substantial risks to ecosystems. Genetically modified animals, if accidentally or intentionally introduced into natural habitats, could significantly disrupt ecosystems. These animals might possess advantages over their non-genetically modified counterparts, such as enhanced disease resistance or faster growth rates. These traits could allow genetically modified animals to outcompete native species for resources. Over time, this competition could lead to reductions in biodiversity as native species struggle to survive. In addition to outcompeting native species, genetically modified animals could also disrupt food chains and cycles within ecosystems. For instance, if a genetically modified animal occupies a crucial position in the food chain, changes in its population could resonate up and down the chain. This could result in population crashes or booms in other species, causing further imbalance in the ecosystem. A significant risk posed by genetically modified animals to ecosystems is the potential for the uncontrolled spread of modified genes. Once one of these animals is released into the wild, it is nearly impossible to prevent it from breeding with non-genetically modified individuals of the same species. Over time, the modified genes could spread throughout the population, a phenomenon known as gene flow. This could result in the entire population expressing the genetic modification, with unknown effects on the ecosystem. Moreover, there is the risk of genetically modified animals potentially accelerating the spread of diseases. While certain genetic modifications aim to increase resistance to diseases, they could unintentionally make other species more susceptible. If genetically modified animals act as reservoirs for diseases, they could increase the risk of disease transmission to other species, with catastrophic implications for ecosystems. Even the purposeful release of these animals could have unintended ecological consequences. As mentioned, genetically modified mosquitoes designed to combat malaria have been released into ecosystems, with the idea that they would outcompete the disease-carrying population. However, the ecological implications of this practice are still not fully understood. There are concerns about potential ripple effects on species that prey on mosquitoes and other unknown ecological impacts. Lastly, it's important to note that ecosystems are complex and interconnected. Changes to one component of the system can result in cascading effects that are hard to predict. Genetic modifications can result in unforeseen changes in behavior or physiology that could disrupt delicate ecological balances in ways we do not yet fully understand. The advent of genetic engineering has redefined the boundaries of what's possible in biological science. Although it carries the potential for numerous benefits, such as combating diseases and improving food production, the genetic modification of animals also raises several ethical and ecological concerns. One of the main arguments against genetically modifying animals is the ethical issue of animal welfare. Genetic modifications often involve the insertion of new genetic material into an animal's DNA, a process that can cause unintended physical and psychological suffering. For instance, certain strains of genetically modified mice used in scientific research have been found to exhibit higher levels of aggression, anxiety, and other problematic behaviors compared to non-modified mice. Such outcomes demonstrate the potential for unexpected and harmful side effects that can lead to undue suffering for the animals involved. The ethical implications extend beyond the immediate suffering of individual animals. When we modify an animal's genetic makeup to serve our purposes, we risk commodifying them and disregarding their intrinsic value as living beings. This commodification can lead to a dangerous, slippery slope, where animals are seen less as sentient beings with rights and more as objects that can be manipulated at will. In addition to the ethical implications, there are also ecological considerations. Animals play crucial roles in their ecosystems, and changes to their genetics can upset the delicate balance of these systems. Genetically modified animals, if accidentally or intentionally introduced into the wild, could potentially outcompete native species or disrupt established food chains. This could lead to unforeseen changes in biodiversity and ecosystem health. Moreover, we must consider the potential for uncontrollable spread of modified genes through a population once a genetically modified animal has been introduced into the wild. This concern is not theoretical. It has been realized with genetically modified mosquitoes intended to combat disease-carrying populations. Despite initial containment efforts, modified genes have been found in the natural mosquito population, leading to unforeseeable consequences. There's also the question of long-term effects. Genetics is a complex field, and it's impossible to predict all the consequences of introducing new genetic material into an animal. There may be hidden costs and repercussions of genetic modification that won't become apparent until much later, when it may be too late to reverse the damage. Lastly, the concept of playing God with the genetic makeup of living creatures raises profound philosophical and moral questions. According to United States cybersecurity officials, there have been a few data breaches in some government agencies as part of a larger hacking campaign by the ransomware gang Clop, which is likely based in Russia. Exploiting a vulnerability, this cybercriminal group has stolen significant data from various high-profile victims, such as Shell, British Airways, and the BBC. Targeting US government entities will likely lead to increased scrutiny by global law enforcement towards the cybercriminals engaged in this prominent hacking spree. Progress Software, which owns MoveIt, patched the vulnerability at the end of May, and the United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency released an advisory with the Federal Bureau of Investigation on June 7th, warning about Clop's exploitation and the urgent need for all organizations, both public and private, to patch the flaw. A senior cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency official told reporters yesterday that all files have now been updated. Cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency representatives chose not to disclose the names of the US government agencies affected by the recent string of cyber attacks. However, they did confirm that they were informed by the Department of Energy that it was one of the affected agencies. According to reports, which originally publicized the attacks, millions of people's state driver's license and identification data in Louisiana and Oregon were also compromised. CLOP, the hacking group behind these recent attacks, had previously claimed responsibility for the cyber attacks on the state governments of Minnesota and Illinois. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Director Jen Easterly stated in a press briefing that her agency is currently assisting various federal agencies that have been affected by intrusions impacting their applications. According to Easterly, the intrusions do not appear to be used for more extensive access, persistence within targeted systems, or theft of specific high-value information. From the information gathered from industry partners in the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, this attack seems to be more of an opportunistic one. Easterly stated that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has not detected any indication of CLOP threatening to reveal any data stolen from the US government. Furthermore, a senior Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency official, who declined to be identified, informed journalists that there is currently no proof of CLOP's association with the Russian government. CLOP itself stated that its focus is on attacking businesses and promised to delete any information obtained from law enforcement or government entities. In 2018, CLOP established itself as a regular ransomware attacker who would encrypt a victim's computer systems and demand payment in exchange for the decryption key. This group is notorious for discovering and exploiting security weaknesses in commonly used software and equipment to obtain sensitive information from various organizations, which it then uses to launch data extortion assaults against them. This information is targeted towards knowledgeable readers who seek a neutral tone and is intended to inform about a general topic. According to Alan Lisker, a recorded future analyst who has expertise in ransomware, the CLOP ransomware was moderately successful in the past, but did not stand out until it transitioned from using encryption-based ransomware to exploiting vulnerabilities in enterprise software and stealing massive amounts of data. Cybercrime has become a significant threat in the digital age, affecting individuals, businesses, and governments worldwide. The financial impact of cybercrime is staggering, with billions of dollars lost each year. One of the primary factors contributing to the high cost of cybercrime is financial fraud. Cybercriminals employ various tactics, such as phishing, identity theft, and credit card fraud, to steal money from individuals and organizations. The financial losses incurred from these fraudulent activities are substantial. According to a report by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, global losses due to cybercrime exceeded $1 trillion in 2020 alone. Businesses are particularly vulnerable to cyber attacks, which can result in significant financial losses. Cybercriminals target companies of all sizes, seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in their systems and steal sensitive data. The cost of cybercrime to businesses includes financial losses from data breaches, theft of intellectual property, disruption of operations, legal expenses, and damage to reputation. A study conducted by Accenture estimates that the average cost of cybercrime for an organization is $13 million per year. Governments also bear a substantial financial burden due to cybercrime. The cost of cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, government networks, and defense systems can be astronomical. These attacks not only result in financial losses, but also pose a threat to national security. Governments invest significant resources in preventing and mitigating cyber threats, including cybersecurity infrastructure, personnel, and incident response mechanisms. The International Monetary Fund estimates that cybercrime costs governments around the world $600 billion annually. The impact of cybercrime extends beyond immediate financial losses. There are also indirect costs associated with cyber incidents, such as the expense of investigation, recovery, and system upgrades. Organizations often need to invest in cybersecurity measures, including training employees, implementing security protocols, and deploying advanced technologies to prevent future attacks. These investments can be substantial, adding to the overall cost of cybercrime. Another factor contributing to the cost of cybercrime is the loss of intellectual property and trade secrets. Cybercriminals target businesses to steal proprietary information, research and development data, and trade secrets. This intellectual property theft not only results in significant financial losses, but also undermines the competitive advantage of affected organizations. Estimates suggest that the theft of intellectual property through cyber espionage costs the global economy hundreds of billions of dollars each year. Furthermore, cybercrime has a ripple effect on the economy as a whole. When businesses and individuals fall victim to cyber attacks, consumer confidence can be eroded, leading to a decrease in online transactions and economic activity. The fear of cyber threats can discourage investment in digital technologies and innovation, hindering economic growth and development. The World Economic Forum estimates that the global economy could lose $3 trillion by 2020 due to cybercrime. The cost of cybercrime is not limited to financial losses. It also includes intangible costs, such as the impact on individuals' privacy, emotional well-being, and trust in digital systems. Cybercrime can cause significant stress, anxiety, and loss of confidence in online activities. The erosion of trust in digital platforms and services can have long-lasting implications for individuals' willingness to engage in online activities, hindering the growth of e-commerce and digital services. Earlier this week, an organization monitoring the movements of a beluga whale that was spotted in Norway in 2019 wearing a harness reported that the same whale has now been sighted off the coast of Sweden. This incident had garnered attention amid speculation that the whale was a spy that belonged to the Russian Navy. Initially spotted in Finnmark, Norway's northernmost region, this particular cetacean proceeded to gradually swim down the upper portion of Norway's coastline for over 3 years. However, it has recently quickened its pace during the past few months, swimming the second half of the coastline before continuing on to Sweden. 2 days ago, an individual was sighted in Hunnebostrand, located on the southwestern coast of Sweden. According to Sebastian Strand, a marine biologist affiliated with one whale, it remains unclear why this particular whale has rapidly increased its speed, particularly since it is currently moving far away from its normal habitat. The researcher said that it is possible that the male beluga whale was searching for a mate. Alternatively, his behavior may be driven by a desire for social interaction, as beluga whales are known for their highly social nature, leading him to search for other members of his species. According to Strand, the whale is thought to be between 13 and 14 years old and is currently experiencing a surge in hormones as a result of its age. The beluga population that is geographically nearest is situated in the far north region of Norway. Since April 2019, it is believed that the whale has not encountered any belugas in Norway. Upon its initial sighting in the Arctic region of Norway, marine biologists from the Norwegian Directorate of Fisheries carefully detached a harness that was man-made and had been attached to the creature. The mounting brackets of the harness are designed for accommodating an action camera, and the plastic clasps have the phrase "Equipment of St. Petersburg" imprinted on them. Discovery of ancient Mayan city halts ongoing railway project. A railway project of massive proportions has been underway since 2020 in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The idea is to connect Yucatan's historic sites, encouraging tourism and highlighting indigenous cultures. However, as it seems, the world's ancestors are doing everything in their power to avoid this transportation revolution from being carried out. While working on the project, more than 300 buildings were discovered, consisting of ancient Mayan civilization, causing another delay to the project. Luckily, the site will be protected as an ecological and archaeological corridor protection plan is set to go into place. It's crazy to imagine that a civilization of humans from the far future would react to finding 300 buildings we use daily, let alone many mundane and jaded responses to discovering hundreds of ancient Mayan buildings and structures. Although somewhat unexplainable, this discovery tells us a lot about building stable structures and reinforces the common idea that Mayans were ahead of their time. Controversial cave discoveries suggest humans reached the Americas much earlier than previously thought. In a recent expedition to the mountains of central Mexico, a team of archaeologists came across evidence that suggests humans may have arrived in North America only 30,000 years ago. This is significantly earlier than what had previously been thought. While exploring the Chiquita Cave, the archaeologists discovered hundreds of ancient tools and artifacts covered in several layers of gravel and dirt. The cave is nearly 3,000 meters above sea level in the country's Astillero Mountains. The gravel on top of the tools has been carbon dated between 25,000 and 32,000 years old. The cave would have likely been used by humans on infrequent occasions, as there were very few tools discovered. The speculation for this is that North America was probably extremely dangerous during the last ice age, and the cave may have been used to hide out dangerous storms and blizzards. However, not all scientists believe the claims about humans arriving in the Americas earlier. It's possible that the tools were shifted below older gravel due to geological activity, burrowing animals, or other sorts of activity. In addition, besides the tools, there was very little else found that implied humans inhabited the cave. One claim goes so far as to say that those living in the cave may have been a lost group. They didn't survive to contribute to the modern gene pools and perished in the cave or nearby. However, it's still very possible that there existed societies and humans who reached the Americas well before we initially realized it. This is only one example of a potential group of inhabitants that are considered to have lived there earlier than many others. The cave is still being explored, and it's unknown what might be discovered with more time and effort put into the research. Locusts can smell cancer. Recent studies have demonstrated that the newest piece of the puzzle may lie with none other than bugs, specifically locusts, in detecting cancer. Recent experiments showed that the insects are skilled and surprisingly accurate when it comes to using their sense of smell to parse out healthy human cells from cancerous ones. In fact, their ability to even identify individual cancer cell tracks suggests that locusts may be able to detect different types of cancer. They were able to measure this detection by attaching electrodes to the brains of the locusts and measuring the responses when presented with gas samples from cancerous and healthy cells. These responses, when combined across all of the cells, were remarkably accurate and distinct, clearly identifying the cancerous cells. It's believed that the locusts were able to detect the difference in volatile organic compounds that we breathe out. VOCs are altered when cancer interferes with the healthy metabolic cell processes, so researchers were keen to investigate the response of locusts, which are known for their sharp sense of smell and have been used in other experiments as well, to the differences in VOCs between healthy and cancerous cells. Needless to say, they were not disappointed when the results from the insect's electrodes were displayed. Microbiologist Christopher Contag with Michigan State University spoke about just how revolutionary this discovery could be for the future of cancer research, saying that the early detection is so important and we should use every possible tool to get there, whether it is engineered or provided to us by millions of years of natural selection. If we are successful, cancer will be a treatable disease. We expected that the cancer cells would appear different than the normal cells, but when the bugs could distinguish 3 different cancers from each other, that was amazing. Researchers hope that further experiments can help us to understand the processes by which the locusts are able to identify cancerous cells, allowing us to reverse engineer a technology-based solution for early detection of cancer. There are 4 stages of cancer, and no matter the type, detection and treatment in early stages results in far greater survival rates. Many avenues of current cancer research have focused on successful methods of early detection, which would allow diagnoses to be made much earlier and broadens the treatment options for a cancer patient significantly. The development of a medical device that harnesses this inherent smelling ability of locusts could signal the future for cancer detection.
As of right now, Anonymous have said that more questions than ever exist in regards to those objects that were taken out above Alaska. They have pointed out that the government reaction to these objects was strange. According to the United States Department of Defense, they've openly said that they take reports of incursions into their airspace by any aircraft very seriously and investigate each one. Those who have investigated this story have said that certain people within the Department of Defense are holding back information, and that whenever one of these mysterious objects is detected above United States airspace, a mundane explanation is given, even after eyewitnesses shared video footage of mysterious objects falling to the ground. This in turn has caused some to suggest that something strange is going on, and that they don't want you knowing the truth. Oddly enough, this isn't the first time that this has happened, and time again people and even government officials are kept in the dark about what these objects are, and why they are so frequently seen above US airspace. As of right now, the true identity of these objects remains a mystery. The Defense Department took a significant step in July 2022 by establishing the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. This office was created with a comprehensive approach aiming to address various crucial aspects. One of its primary objectives is to meticulously investigate and identify any unexplained anomalous phenomena that could potentially jeopardize national security and impede the smooth functioning of both the military and federal agencies. This in-depth initiative demonstrates the government's commitment to thoroughly investigate unidentified objects. However, lately the program has been criticized by believers, with them saying that they are not taking cases and sightings seriously and just debunking them without conducting further investigations. Unidentified aerial phenomena encompass objects or entities found anywhere, ranging from outer space to the Earth's atmosphere, land, sea, and even underwater, which cannot be recognized or classified and have the potential to jeopardize the security of United States military facilities or operations. In a significant event, Sean M. Kirkpatrick, the esteemed director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, made a compelling testimony before the esteemed members of the Senate Armed Services Committee's Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities. His presence at the department is actively engaged in an ongoing effort to gain a deeper understanding of and effectively address unidentified aerial phenomena. These unidentifiable objects, found in various domains, have the potential to pose significant risks to both safety and security. This is of utmost concern, especially when considering the impact on military personnel and capabilities. At the time, it was revealed that in a span of just 8 days, the United States military took decisive action by deploying fighter jets on 4 separate occasions. These operations were carried out to neutralize potential threats in the form of a substantial presumed surveillance balloon and 3 smaller unidentified airborne objects. These incidents occurred in different locations, namely Alaska, Lake Huron, and the Yukon Territory of Canada. Over a period of 3 consecutive days, US military fighter jets successfully intercepted and destroyed multiple unidentified, high-altitude objects. This series of operations occurred in the aftermath of a significant event that captured the attention of the nation's media. The event involved a large airship, reportedly dispatched by China with the intention of conducting surveillance on the US mainland. This airship, which traversed the entire country, generated widespread interest before ultimately being neutralized off the coast of South Carolina. Pentagon officials made an announcement on the 11th of February, revealing that they successfully intercepted and neutralized an aerial intruder of unknown origin, which was approximately the size of a car within the confines of US airspace. Subsequently, the following day, an American F-22 fighter aircraft shot down a small and cylindrical object that was observed hovering at an altitude of 40,000 feet above Canadian territory. Adding to the enigma, a third unidentified object was promptly eliminated from the sky above Lake Huron, Michigan, as per the announcement made by US officials. President Joe Biden, along with officials from the White House and the military, have expressed their belief that the objects in question have been primarily utilized for civilian research purposes. At present, there is no discernible evidence that indicates any connection between these objects and China. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, an organization responsible for monitoring and protecting the airspace of the United States and Canada, initiated the monitoring of an unidentified flying object that was described as being approximately the size of a small car. This object was observed to be moving in a northeasterly direction at an elevation of around 40,000 feet. These details were provided by Brigadier General Pat Ryder, the press secretary of the Pentagon.
The incident sparked thorough investigation and analysis, as the North American Aerospace Defense Command took every possible measure to gather information and understand the nature of these objects. During the statement made by Mr. Ryder on February 10th, he emphasized that the object in question differed greatly in terms of both its size and shape compared to the alleged spy balloon. Additionally, various officials further clarified that the object did not contain any substantial payload of importance or significance. Following the dispatch of aircraft to conduct a detailed examination of the unidentified object, the Pentagon advised President Joe Biden to authorize its destruction. In light of a cautious approach, the White House concurred with this recommendation. As part of a strategic response, 2 F-22 planes were swiftly deployed from Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, situated near Anchorage, Alaska. This immediate action was taken in response to a critical situation that required urgent intervention. According to Mr. Ryder, the entire series of events took place within the airspace of the United States and over its territorial waters. The wreckage ultimately came to rest on the frozen sea off the northern coast of Alaska. This means that every stage of the incident occurred within the boundaries and jurisdiction of the United States. A fleet of military aircrafts were deployed with the primary objective of recovering the remnants of the unidentified object. The intention behind this mission was to meticulously examine the retrieved fragments and ascertain important insights from them. In addition, authorities were also monitoring the movement of a second unidentified flying object that penetrated United States airspace in Alaska before further traversing into Canadian territory. This notable finding remained undisclosed until the 11th of February, when it was disclosed that the object was subsequently intercepted and eliminated by an American F-22 Raptor fighter jet. As of right now, what these objects are remain a mystery. So, what do you make of these recent announcements? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.